It's Monday, April 4. In the headlines, guidelines for sexual harassment tribunal completed. Blue Mountain Coffee Festival a success. Regionally, Guyana to host Food and Agriculture Organization conference. And St. Kitts healthcare system gets a boost. And in sports, West Indies to clash with India in Florida. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom Gale. Guidelines to support the operations of the Sexual Harassment Tribunal have been completed, and Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Olivia Grange, is urging organizations to get ready for the implementation of the sexual harassment law. Under the law, workplaces and institutions are required to issue sexual harassment policies and bring those policies to the attention of workers. The policy should advise workers, clients, students, residents, wards, and members on how complaints of sexual harassment should be reported and addressed. Minister Grange, in a statement, says, quote, although workplaces and institutions will have 12 months from the implementation date of the law to put their policies in place, it is critical that the work begins now. Minister Grange says she has mandated the Bureau of Gender Affairs to set up sensitization on the sexual harassment legislation and to assist organizations to develop their policies. She says once administrative arrangements for the establishment of the Sexual Harassment Tribunal and the Sexual Harassment Unit are completed, the public will hear the date on which the Sexual Harassment Protection and Prevention Act 2021 will come into operation. The tribunal will hear and determine complaints of sexual harassment at the workplace and other institutions, and to adjudicate on complaints by a worker of the employer's failure to act on such complaints, while the Sexual Harassment Unit will assist in investigative work and other statutory requirements to give support to the proper functioning of the tribunal. The government of Jamaica announced on Friday that the current Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Kamina Johnson-Smith, is to be nominated for the position of Secretary General of the Commonwealth. The final decision is to be made during the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which will take place from the 20th to the 25th of June 2022 in Rwanda. Minister Johnson-Smith is Jamaica's first female Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, who was first appointed in 2016. Speaking on the announcement, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says, quote, the government of Jamaica has every confidence in Minister Johnson-Smith's abilities to build bridges and consensus, bringing governments and peoples to a common understanding. Her qualifications for the post of Secretary General, including her high moral character, diplomatic and political acumen, proven competence, and commitment to the work of the Commonwealth make her an excellent candidate, end quote. Minister Johnson-Smith is an attorney at law who worked previously in private practice and as a corporate in-house counsel, and holds a Bachelor of Arts in French, a Bachelor of Laws and Master of Laws in Commercial Law. Minister Johnson-Smith speaks French as a foreign language. Get into the business. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett is urging Jamaican farmers to produce more coffee. He says coffee is a staple in Jamaica's agriculture and tourism industries. He was speaking in a forum alongside head of Sandals hotel chain Adam Stewart at the Blue Mountain Coffee Festival on Saturday.
The more coffee we have is the more we can bring the coffee aficionados from all over the world to come to Jamaica, and Destination Jamaica becomes a coffee destination.
That was a strong signal to the world that coffee will be playing a major role in the tourism industry. Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett was speaking with the host of the Blue Mountain Coffee Festival, Dr. Terry Carell-Reid, staged at the historic Devon House. The festival was put on by the Tourism Linkages Network, a department of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, which is an agency of the Ministry of Tourism. Minister in charge of Tourism Edmund Bartlett stressed that there is still more that can be done with coffee and its vision is to turn the Buff Bay Valley into a coffee mecca.
85% of our coffee product is still to be utilized to create jobs for the small farmers and the ordinary Jamaican who is into creative combination of great ideas. And that's something that we need to spend some time on for the coffee producers of Jamaica, the farmers, and those who are thinking of producing. And I want to encourage you to get into the business, because if one brand alone is looking to 20 million cups, multiply that by N, you mathematicians, and we understand how much more production.
Also sharing the stage with the minister was Executive Chairman of Sandals, Adam Stewart. He shared his plans for the new Sandals Hotel and his vision for a Blue Mountain tour.
So the fact that the government gave us a north-south highway, the fact that you can jump from Ocho and be in the Blue Mountains within an hour makes the whole tour and coffee journey through a practical sense a reality.
Mr. Stewart touted the rich history of the Blue Mountain and that its history needed to be shared with visitors to the island.
What we did years ago, in the hotel business, we're always in the quest to deliver more to our customers and give them a higher level of experience. And Jamaica Blue Mountain is the highest ranking coffee on the planet. It's ours, it's our backbone, it's grown here. It tells the story of Jamaica. It's a rich story. And it's a story in many ways that's undiscovered, that many don't know.
He gave his support to expand the use of Blue Mountain coffee within his hotel chain.
We made a switch. We do a blend in our all in-room coffee and all coffee on property. And I think what's probably most cool, as we said to the minister a while ago, 10.4 million cups today, but in 5 years, that number will be in excess of 20 million cups of Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee poured not only in Jamaica, but in every one of our resorts across the Caribbean.
The Blue Mountain Coffee Festival was created in keeping with the ministry's objective to foster strategic growth of culinary tourism as a niche product for Jamaica, all in a centralized location. This year's festival took on a month-long list of activities to make up for the 2-year hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For PBCJ News, I'm Carla Thomas Hewitt.
On Friday, April 1, Prime Minister Andrew Holness held bilateral discussions with United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken on ways to strengthen their partnerships. Mr. Blinken says Jamaica and the U.S. have shared 60 years of strong diplomatic relationships and stressed that the meeting held will continue to make a difference in the lives of the people they represent.
I really want to applaud Mr. Prime Minister, your very strong economic leadership in Jamaica and our partnership in the Caribbean, which I think has never been better, and that's in large part due to your engagement and your leadership. So we're very pleased to have you here to talk about many of the issues that bring us together in our own region, but also issues that are affecting people globally, from climate to COVID to other things. And we're, of course, looking very much forward to working together on some of the Americas, which is coming up.
The Prime Minister thanked the U.S. for its role in helping Jamaica make significant progress in its macroeconomic development, particularly with its fiscal stability, sustainability, and debt reduction. He underscored that Jamaica wants to further its partnership in human resource development.
We are now at a point where we can pivot to other areas of our economic and social development, our human capital development. Jamaica has been a net exporter of talent to the United States. And I think our long-standing people-to-people relationship with migration back and forth would have been mutually beneficial. But Jamaica is in a state now where its growth potential, its growth horizon could potentially be limited by its human resource development. And this is an area in which we want to explore ways in which we can further partnership.
The Prime Minister stressed that a small shift in economic policy could result in gains that are significant to both the economies of Jamaica and the United States.
Jamaica considers itself to be a friendly nearshore destination for investments and production capacity. And I think that it would be in the US's interest to look at countries like Jamaica to position strategic production capacity, which would be beneficial for the stability of production chains and supply of goods and services.
Following the high-level talks, Prime Minister Holness wrapped up day 3 of his working visit to the U.S. capital, Washington, D.C., with a virtual diaspora town hall. Persons are being warned that it is illegal to work as a nutritionist if you're not registered with the Council of Professions supplementary to medicine. Regional dietitian at the Western Regional Health Authority, Dr. Rosalie Brown, gave the warning as she addressed the JIS think tank at its Montego Bay office recently. She says it is also important to note that there are different training requirements for dietitians versus nutritionists.
What is most important, it's not just having that basic training at a university level. They must be registered with the legal counsel in Jamaica. So we'll have many Jamaicans who have basic training and they're going around saying they're nutritionists. It is illegal unless they are licensed with the Council of Professions supplementary to medicine.
Time to check in with the world of business with Danita Rodney.
In foreign exchange trading for Friday, April 1, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.05. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $123.67. The pound sterling traded for $202.02, and the euro sold for an average of $172.33. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Friday's trading session. The JSE index declined by 1,458 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index declined by 37 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index declined by 1,697 points to close at over 400,000 units, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 1,990 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 105 stocks, of which 47 advanced, 42 declined, and 16 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and CAC 2000 9.5% Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares. Trading firm were 1834 Investments Limited, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited, and Siboney Group Limited. Jamaican Teas Limited was the volume leader with over 10 million units, followed by Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 3 million units, and Lasco Financial Services Limited with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, Clico Investment Fund traded over 50,000 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund trading 180 shares. The Barbados Stock Exchange traded 0 securities. In market data for oil rose to $105 a barrel on Monday in volatile trading as the release of reserves by consuming nations failed to eliminate supply fears arising from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Brent crude was up 92 cents or 0.9% at $105.31 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude gained 63 cents or 0.6% to $99.90 a barrel. In international news, businesses are struggling to keep their doors open as inflation brought on by the pandemic has caused supply problems that are now being made worse by the war in Ukraine. Al Jazeera's John Hendren reports.
Atlas Toolworks is powered through a pandemic, supply chain disruptions, rising inflation, and now wartime scarcity.
With the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we've seen increases to fuel and energy costs immediately and increase to raw materials.
That goes especially for nickel, used to make stainless steel, much of it mined in Russia. It's used for everything from shovels to fighter jet parts made by Atlas, and so precious every scrap is saved and resold.
There was an item we looked at last week for one sheet was around $900, and the next day it was $1,200.
The unreliable supply chain leaves companies like Atlas stockpiling supplies and passing the higher costs on to customers. The supply chain problems affect timing, price, and availability of goods to market. And if either the war in Ukraine or the pandemic grow worse, so do those problems. At Uptown Bikes in Chicago, parts have been scarce and costlier, forcing the staff to get creative.
We normally would have new bikes to sell, but we've really pivoted to focus on fixing up any used bikes we might have available. We've had to be a lot more broad-minded about what used parts that we save off bikes that we might not have saved parts on before.
2 years of pandemic supply chain woes on everything from bikes to iPhones have only been exacerbated by the war in Ukraine.
The iPhone, for example, is assembled in China, but all the parts are made all over the world. So there may be a chip or something within that phone that was manufactured in the Ukraine or Russia that is now ultimately having to be sourced from a different supplier.
For the head of Atlas, the answer is clear. The U.S. needs to source more raw materials at home.
The United States is the cleanest, best place to mine things, or get oil. I don't think, Mother Nature cares if the oil came out of Russia or the United States.
He's hoping the ripple effect from the pandemic and from the war in Ukraine will spark new innovation in the U.S. and around the globe. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Chicago.
And that was the Business Report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, we start with Bahamas. Following the controversial case of the 40-year-old man who impregnated a 14-year-old, community members and government officials alike are expressing their dissatisfaction with the whole ordeal, while some have publicly blamed the victim. Minister of State for Social Services, Lisa Ramming, says she does not place blame entirely on the child. Our News has the details.
She's still a minor, and it doesn't mean that minors cannot make good decisions. What I look at it is, if a child is placed in a vulnerable position, anything is likely to happen. Think of when adults are placed in vulnerable positions. They sometimes make irrational decisions. And so I looked at it as she was misguided.
Many have also asserted that parents should be more involved in the lives of their children and more aware of their activities.
Sometimes you may say that the parent must have known, should have known. Sometimes parents don't. They don't, because we all think of our kids as being innocent. We all think that we have done all we can and we know they're not going to do the wrong thing. But when we entrust them in the hands of persons that we think will guide them and do the right thing, think of having somebody that you trust. It's like a father. You're not going to think negative to say that this is what the father's going to do. And so I don't entirely blame the mom. I don't.
As it relates to legislation, Minister of Public Services, Pia Glover-Roll, notes the Attorney General is working to bring forth new legislation to Cabinet.
We're working very hard towards strengthening our laws. We're working very hard to ensure that we're capturing what needs to be amended in regard to domestic violence, violence against women and girls in the law. This is something that's a work in progress. It's coming to Cabinet. It will go to the House. The goal is to ensure that our laws are strengthened. Development of our laws in what is now a modern and evolving society.
In St. Kitts and Nevis, the Nevis Island Administration is enhancing human capacity in the healthcare service system on the island of Nevis with the recruitment of 5 nurses at the Alexandra Hospital. Minister of Health in the NIA, Mark Bradley, informed that 3 of the new recruits are from the Philippines and 2 are from Nevis. He highlighted that the NIA continues to provide support to Nevians who choose to study in that field.
Since our appeal in 2021 for persons to enter the nursing profession, 4 individuals have entered the nursing assistant program and 4 have entered a bachelor's degree program at CFBC. All students are given financial support from the Nevis Island Administration. And so I'm happy that our entreaties have not fallen on deaf ears and that we are slowly building up our nursing cohort to provide relief. Many people would not know that during the pandemic in particular, we had some nurses working very long shifts, 12 hours and sometimes longer. And so the nursing shortage has really had an effect on us and taken a toll on our nursing staff.
Guyana is set to host the 38th Food and Agriculture Regional Conference for Latin America and the Caribbean in 2024, after it receives full support from all countries in the region. The Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, is the specialized agency for the United Nations that leads efforts to counter hunger and improve countries' nutrition and food security. Following the announcement, Minister of Agriculture Zulfikar Mustafa has underscored the need for financing to be equally available for indigenous people and small farmers across the Caribbean region.
The government and people of Guyana are extremely honored to receive the endorsement of member states of Latin America and the Caribbean for Guyana to host the 38th session of the FAO's Regional Conference for Latin America and the Caribbean in 2024.
The conference is convened biannually and is the official forum where ministers of agriculture and high-level officials of the region meet to deliberate on priority matters related to food and agriculture. This year's regional conference was held in Ecuador, where new strategies to combat climate change were shared. At that conference, Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa underscored the need for financing to be equally available for indigenous people and small farmers across the Caribbean region. He also outlined the Guyana's government plan to boost agricultural production.
Guyana is therefore committed to providing space to further this coordination among the countries of our region and for the sharing of experience with a view to promoting stronger agri-food sector across our country, guided by global policy objectives.
And in Barbados, a political scientist in Barbados is suggesting political parties should be made to disclose how much they spend during an election campaign. Sharika Griffith from CBC Barbados has that story.
The recently published report of election expenses was a hot topic in the public, as it showed candidates in the 2022 general election spending from $0 to $89,000. But political scientist Professor Cynthia Barrow-Giles says she does not have much interest in the report due to its lack of transparency.
The existing legislation that is in Barbados and the rest of the Caribbean does not require political parties to, in fact, disclose their sources of income and their spending patterns. So insofar as there is an absence of that, I do not in fact pay much attention to what is being declared by the candidates. As I indicated, these are not verified, they are not audited, they are not investigated, and I would have to take at face value the truthfulness of the submissions, which are either submitted by the candidates or the agents acting on behalf of the candidates.
Noting she believes millions of dollars are being spent during campaigns, Professor Barrow-Giles says minimally there should be a system of election reform which requires political parties to disclose their spend. The university lecturer has also raised concerns about parties accepting anonymous donations.
We do not know what is the source of the income. It could be legal, it could be illegal. We don't know which foreign governments and which foreign corporations are providing money to the government. And that therefore is a governance issue. It's a serious governance issue, because at the end of the day, citizens are not aware of whether or not public policy is being bought.
She, however, acknowledges the counter-argument Barbados is a small society and donors to political campaigns may suffer victimization.
I do not accept that we have to, in fact, declare all sources of income. In other words, there should be a ceiling over and above which the legislation should require a declaration of the source of the income. Below a certain amount of money, I don't think that we should unnecessarily expose people to the potential of victimization. So
Professor Barrow-Giles would also like to see effective legislation which gives the election oversight body, whether that's the Electoral and Boundaries Department or some other entity, the capacity to audit and investigate whether the claims submitted regarding election spending are in fact accurate. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
In sports, Gainstead High are champions of the Issa Urban Area Under-19 netball competition following their 50-28 victory over Jose Marti on Friday's final in the national arena. The first quarter ended 11-11 while Gainstead led 20-18 at half-time. At the end of the third quarter, Gainstead extended their advantage to 34-21. St. Catherine High won the third-place playoff 29-27 over St. Hughes. Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica are seeking to develop a sport exchange program, so says Jamaica High Commissioner Arthur Williams. In an interview, Williams said both countries had their strength in their respective sporting disciplines and they should find ways to collaborate for an exchange of expertise. He said this would be a benefit for the countries and the region generally, as sports development and sports tourism can now be explored. The program would aim to facilitate knowledge and technical skills, physical education techniques, teachers and coaches exchanges. The countries that have been working towards putting this program into full swing were Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, St. Lucia, and Barbados. The West Indies will play India in Florida for 2 of their 5 T20 internationals during their white ball home series in July and August of this year. The Indians are set to play 3 one-day internationals and 5 T20 internationals. It's understood that the bulk of the series will be in Trinidad and Guyana. Reggae girl Khadija Shaw netted her 4th goal of the season for Manchester City as they won 2-0 at West Ham United on Saturday to move level on points with rivals Manchester United in the English FA Women's Super League. Gareth Taylor's side was full of confidence after 7 straight wins in all competitions, and Georgia Stanway swept them away ahead on 8 minutes before Spanish Town-born Shaw, 25, doubled their lead on 63 minutes with easiest of headers from Caroline Weir's corner. With 4 WSL games left, the only goal difference keeps City in 4th behind United and the Women's Champions League spots. The 2 sides face each other again in their next fixture, contesting one of the FA Women's Cup semi-finals on Saturday, April 16. Shaw, a member of the historic Jamaica squad, which qualified for the FIFA World Cup in France 3 years ago, joined Manchester City from Bordeaux in a 3-year deal last year. And with that, we call an end to today's newscast. On behalf of our entire news and production team, thank you so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.